We have another episode of Tailwind. Today we're joined by Dan McCoy. Dan, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Great. Yeah. Austin, thank you for having me. Dan McCoy, I am the owner of DLM. I currently support, from a fractional perspective, our Clarota team, where I'm their acting chief revenue officer. Excited to be there, along with a few other clients where I do some elements of work for. However, I spend a lot of my time with the Clarota team. Uh, uh, Acting on behalf of their investors and their team as the chief revenue officer.
Nice.
I've I would say I've spent most of my career in big tech, so I spent quite a long time. At the time, it was called Pioneer Standard, which ultimately got bought by Arrow. And then also at Oracle, moved to VMware and decided I wanted to right around just right around just before COVID hit, I wanted to get into the small business market. So I started to go to companies where I found the opportunity to go from a Series A to Series B, or help a company get from 15 to $30 million, or to do those types of elements, where I learned a great deal about what it takes to move the needle in a small company, but then also help me start my own firm.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. So from a big tech background, you obviously have been around technology. You've seen the trends and how they play out. How are you seeing this AI trend play at the moment and around business development?
I think it's such a broad conversation. Yeah, I just was
Yeah.
at Snowflake Summit a week ago. Clarota, we are a True Blue Snowflake partner, so we dedicated all of our energy and efforts to the successful consumption of Snowflake products. But you couldn't walk by a single booth without seeing something that was AI generated, or yeah, it is definitely obviously what consumes everyone right now, and it's the fastest way to get to market. And even Clarota themselves, we are a company that was born in the AI era. So we
Mhm.
move at a much faster pace. Now, from a sales perspective, I think it's good. And I think that it's the one area where I would challenge people in technology where it's potentially hurt
Mhm.
the size of business development. I think from a overall sales perspective, if you're talking to any salesperson and the United anywhere really, I wouldn't say just the United States, but anywhere that isn't using AI as an assistant to help them be better prepared for meetings, to help them be better organized, ask solid questions for managers to make sure that they're improving on one-on-ones. I mean, the ability to assist and guide is
Mhm.
so powerful from just a basic AI perspective, and that's before you even get into all the agentic elements that help make a company run.
Yeah.
However, from a business development perspective, it's definitely oversaturated the market. I would say there isn't a person, myself including. Formerly, I was chief revenue officer for a consumer data company where I outsourced our business development. They pretended to be me
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, and that's how we went about getting a lot of our cold prospecting done. What's starting to happen is everyone knows that if you get a message from someone on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and the moment they go back to one or two subtle elements of your background, you know that it's AI generated, so you tend to ignore it,
Yeah.
right? Email campaigns just simply don't work anymore because we ignore email now that if we don't recognize a person, or it goes directly into spam. So,
Yeah.
those elements are tougher to come by. And of course, prospecting over the phone has gotten incredibly difficult because if you don't recognize a number, who answers it? Right. I always say that one of the most powerful tools personally ever had to be video voicemail, being able to quickly read a transcript of who's calling me so I can ignore it. Or I can, not bother. I can make sure that I keep that 30 minutes of my time in my schedule together. So, I would say that, I believe AI has definitely uh, right now impacted that front end, that business development effort uh, far greater, or far negative. It's making everyone change the way that they think about how they go about finding new customers.
Yeah. So what are some of the things where, you kind of pointed out certain things that have kind of like diluted. What are certain traps that you would say like, hey, watch out for these approaches to using AI in your business development? Like what are like the basics? You kind of already hit them, but I'm just curious, like a
Yeah.
fundamental, if I'm thinking about it from my own perspective, what should I avoid doing with it?
Well, I think that the this is the hard part, right? Because you're asking it to write a lot of your notes for you,
Hmm.
right? And the one thing that I always talk to anyone that I've ever managed in my entire career is inflection. There's no inflection in email, right? So the reality of it is whoever's reading your email is inflecting based on how they would read it.
Hmm.
So I think all of us that get 200, 300, 500 emails a day quickly can disseminate what's been written by a human being and what hasn't.
Yeah.
So, I wish I could say, well, there's a silver bullet, but I mean, there's certainly easy things. And honestly, I don't know how to avoid it because you're having an AI engine mass write your tools, your programs for you. It's pre-selecting certain elements from my career. It's saying, hey, we have in common, let's get connected.
Hmm.
Um, and it's very difficult for me to pinpoint one of those elements other than the fact that once you read 20 of them, you can quickly identify with them and know. And I think the bigger problem with all of this is, it's the kind of one bad apple
Hmm.
theory of, so now that everyone realizes that, let's just say 15%, and that's probably really low, of introductory emails or notes are AI driven. Well, as a business leader, you just ignore them all.
Right.
So, I think that's in my opinion, that's the big challenge. And that's where you have to get back to, what seems to be working for us really well is we've gone back to more of a grassroots effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, it's tricky because like you could have the human written element in there, but if everything is so diluted, it just crowds out and makes it so noisy. And because everything moves so fast now, it's happening ultimately like incredibly fast. And I've noticed the same thing. I used to think it was really cool, like at the very, very beginning when people started being like, this is a way to like optimize and personalize emails really fast. But then like it just like after you got past the party trick, it kind of felt like one of those things where it's like
Hmm.
you're reaching out to say you want to start a relationship with me, but you're not actually putting any effort into it. You have a bot that you're trying to trick me into thinking I care about you. And it's like that I feel like that kind of once with the luster wore off, it was like, oh, okay, wait, there's something on the other end. Um, so you're saying you've having success with grassroots. You mind expanding a little bit on that? What exactly that
Uh,
is?
yeah. So, first of all, shout out to my friend Hellman at Close Loop, uh, the training company, who does a really, really great job around explaining how prospecting has changed,
Hmm.
right? Where, pre-COVID, it took you 9 cold touches to get in front of a human being. Today it's north of 20. So when
Hmm.
you're writing sequences, you have to write them at such a rapid pace to make sure that you get to the point where someone says, okay, fine, I'll meet with you after you kind of bludgeon them to death.
Yeah.
Which also is a very poor way to start a relationship.
Yeah.
One of the things that uh, my friends that one of the things that we do at Clarota is we use a program called neutralizers. So Clarota is I mentioned it a little bit. It's a system integrator that is heavily based and founded on Indian principles of you give first before you
Mhm.
receive, right? So we have strict guidance to whoever your targets are. You're not to reach out to them uh, personally, or you're not to reach out to them individually. You're to find someone that's a neutralizer that can make that introduction for you.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, there's 1,000 partners and they today for in the Snowflake ecosystem. And if I'm just another partner that sends a LinkedIn request and tells them that I've got the secret formula to tripling their consumption, I know that I'm wasting their time.
Right.
However, if I have a target that I can put into my goal sheet, and I can identify 2 or 3 people that I know of them, and I can make that call and make a request for an introduction, you're much more likely to make that introduction and then give a value proposition that or a pitch that's going to help them,
Yeah.
right? So I really think that this getting back to uh, grassroots, build a network work your network and also to help others that are coming to see you make sure that you're doing the same thing, you're fully reciprocating when those opportunities present themselves,
Mhm.
creates a far better avenue. Now, what's interesting about this is our outreach numbers. I would say compared to when I was doing this prior, my outreach is 95% less, but
Okay.
my hit rates are in the 1,000th percentile. So, you're getting meaningful opportunities. You just have to put a little bit more work and a little bit more, study in prior to getting those.
Yeah. Yeah, warm referrals, those are you can't beat that with
Yeah.
doing cold outreach. There's just no comparison. So when somebody's going to build that network, how would you recommend that they start the process of starting to, garner the relationships and be able to do that for them?
Right. The one thing that I would say about that too, that I want to be cautious of,
Oh
you're
yeah.
right. There's nothing like a there's nothing like a warm lead, right? But the reality of it is what we're creating an element where we're saying we're generating the warm lead. So it's
Yeah.
not just, oh, you know what, someone knows Austin and he's a great guy. I'm going to make sure I introduce you to him. No, we're actually going out to those folks and saying, we believe we have something that can help someone in your network that we would like to get to know. Would you be open to it? So you
Yeah.
have to create that warm lead, which is a little bit different of a play than just your standard warm lead. But it is an important differentiator. And Austin, I'm sorry, I forgot I forgot your question. Could you
No, you're
rephrase
good.
it
You're
for me?
good. You're good. I
Yeah,
really like that distinction because
yeah,
you're right. This is a proactive thing that you're doing. It's not I'm just going to sit here and aggressively wait for people to give me like, the referrals or to, connect
hmm,
them to the network. You have to go out and do it. And I think that's really a good point that you're driving home there.
yeah.
So if I'm an individual that, let's say, maybe I'm newer into my career or I'm breaking into like a different industry or for whatever reason, I don't necessarily have a strong network. And do we have any recommendations on how to start building that out so then you can actually start proactively working that network?
Right. So I think there's a couple of things. So first and foremost is uh, grow your network. Like if you're a salesperson that's regional, or if you're a salesperson based off of that has shares a vertical, you need to start getting into meetups. You need to start speaking. You need to start building out, elements that's going to help you grow your network, so you can be treated like someone who's going to help people. I
Yeah.
think that is obviously the most important thing. And uh, at times, and this is me kind of showing my age a little bit, I think that's a bit of
Yeah.
a forgotten skill. And it's really starting to make a turn back to that because we've oversaturated the market with technology to help do that job. That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to find the right tools.
Hmm.
Tools are incredibly important, right? So you have things like LinkedIn Navigate, things like Zoom Info. You have elements that have, tools that can help you with a lot of different elements. Me personally, I'm a big fan of a tool called KnowledgeNet
Hmm.
that takes your personal database, takes your LinkedIn database, and then shows you the multiple connections that might be connected to the person you want to get to. So now you have access to all of those folks, and you could quickly identify, oh, you know what? Potentially, I have a potential opportunity to meet someone through a neutralizing conversation.
Yeah. And then so, you work on that, getting out there, going to the meetings, going to different events, making sure that you're getting to know people. Then you start analyzing it. Is it as simple as just making a phone call? Do you just try to stay in touch once a quarter with everybody? How are you doing like your practical application on a regular basis?
Right, right, right. Great question. I think there's two elements to that, right? So one is part of the fun of doing things this way is you get to connect with people you might not have connected with for a while. I've gotten to talk to some old friends of mine that that have I haven't gotten to see and to catch up, and that part is great. I think the second piece of this is you have to have effective marketing too. You have to have a good newsletter.
Hmm.
A good newsletter will help you immensely to help you get to those different types of people and to continue your reach out and just to create friendly reminders. I think that I know that is a huge element to success. I also would say activity on LinkedIn that's positive is really good. Also, company and corporate activity on LinkedIn, I think, is also a huge help.
Yeah. Now, would you say that we've talked about the personal aspect of it, do you think that those newsletters and that LinkedIn activity needs to be like human and like written by a human, maybe assisted by AI? Or is that one of those situations where that's fine because it's more of summarizing information, getting it out?
Um, Boy, that's a great question, Austin. I fundamentally believe that yes, you should use AI to assist you in just about anything you can to
Yeah.
make your life more efficient, right? And that's where I was talking about at the beginning of, there's no better executive assistant for any individual contributor than AI. And
Mhm.
frankly, if you're a really good one, you have a lot of heavy activity. If you're the type of salesperson that every sales manager loves, you need that kind of help. And I always say, man, I wish I had it when I was carrying a bag. Uh, However, you also have to be smart enough to know that someone can say, "Damn, McCoy didn't write that," or "Your marketing team didn't write that."
Yeah.
So it's all nuance. There's no better answer to that. Of course, you want someone to help and guide you write something, and whether it's AI and technology or whether it's another person, of course you want it. But just don't forget to do the hard work of proofreading and making sure that it does things like matches your corporate values, that it your mission statement, and that it's targeting what you want to target. Too often do we just rely on a tool like that and just hit send,
Yeah.
and that's when you know you're in trouble.
I mean, is it almost fair just to say like have it run and do as much as you want it to do, but you have to be that intermediary. You can never not have the human in the loop, making sure that when the human's interacting, the AI isn't just not getting the intercept at some point.
Right. I mean, I think that there's just elements of creativity that
Yeah.
each person or each company owns,
Yeah.
and you have to abide by those principles. And you can train AI as much as you want. There's always going to be elements that might not make sense, at least right now. Maybe 3 years, maybe 6 months from now, that might be different. But for today, especially in terms of business development,
Yeah.
I'm starting to see more and more getting back to basics, grassroots of effective networking.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to claim to be like a master at message writing or like anything like that. But I almost feel like there's almost like the imperfection of the human element, and it just being like, maybe a misspelled word here. I mean, not do it, don't do it on purpose, but like, like just adding the human element of just being like, hey, this is my best attempt at writing it the way I write it, and that's kind of who I am, and it allows them to kind of see you, and maybe they don't want to work with a person like you, which is not an insult. It's just kind of, they're not a
Right.
match on how you behave, but then you got a person over here who's more receptive to your guys' strategy or how your company operates, and they want to talk to the person that's there, not the thing that's always nailing its punctuation and doing grammar right all the time. I don't know. I think, yeah, I'm seeing the smirk. I'm so curious what your thoughts
Well,
are on
I
it.
mean, I certainly want someone that can grasp the English language to write their emails for themselves. But
Yeah.
it is funny what you say. Phrasing, I have my AI engine on all the time when I'm writing emails, and I always get, I would say every there you can't write an email without a suggestion. It's almost impossible these days, right?
Oh, yeah.
But do you take them all? Because
No.
there are times because I'm like, this doesn't sound like me, or I don't want to shorten this sentence, or there are elements that, yeah, that you're right, that are kind of make that human connection, that in my opinion, they definitely matter. People can tell, people can read that. Well, let me say, I know I can if I'm
Yeah.
taking something that's serious. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of I don't know if AI literacy is the right way to put it, but a lot of people are getting really good at being able to pick that out. And then like
Hmm.
even with like the videos, as we're getting exposed to more and more of those videos, which are just mind blowing, right? To see the AI created videos that are just complete pull out of thin air. And then like you see the first couple, you're like, this is so realistic. But then eventually like that it seeps in. Whatever is there, you start noticing the tiny little nuances or like things are just barely off and in an inhuman way off. And then
Yeah.
it becomes like, where I think it's just gonna become more and more where it's gonna be more difficult to hide that the AI is being used. But I mean, at the same
You,
time,
you know, you, you
oh, sorry.
you made me think of just a couple of things that I say are always important in sales. And probably the biggest one is intent.
Yeah.
If your buyer feels that you actually truly want to help them and you're not doing this for a commission check,
Yeah.
you have a much higher probability of being successful, right? And, can AI pick up your intent with your customer? And if it hasn't,
Can. But
yeah,
yeah.
and if it hasn't, maybe that's a great thing to evaluate.
Mhm. I think the emotional aspect of the conversation that you're having, like AI is mimicking emotions, but AI doesn't have emotions. And so
Yeah.
there's that when it tries to be empathetic or be like, hey, I understand what's happening here, like it doesn't. It's, a really advanced clustering of text with kind of more math than that, but it's really powerful tool, but it's not actually having empathy for your situation or not truly looking out for your best interest. It's just processing a calculation on what the next best guess is of what that conversation should go to. And I think that,
Right.
that's the
I
human
think this
element
get
part.
yeah. I think this gets back to, I would challenge anyone on my team to use AI every single day. Like
Yeah.
it's going to make you more efficient. Is it the has it harmed business development by saturation? I'm going to say yes, it has, just because I'm a person who gets called on every single day. I get prospected to multiple times, and I could open up my email right now and I could assure you that the top five of them are not written by a human.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and not to play devil's advocate, but maybe there's something nice about the shift that it's forcing us into with like, all right, you no longer can just sit here and write an email and get a response. You need to actually go out there and start building networks and building stronger human
Hmm.
relationships, which makes it maybe a little bit more difficult, but could have profound impacts down the road. And I got to imagine that, if you met somebody, shook their hand, and they became a customer later on, they're probably going to be harder to churn than if you sent them an email and saw them over Zoom once. I don't have
Yeah.
any data to back that up, but I would be willing to bet that would be what would happen.
Sales is hard.
It is.
I mean, it is. So yeah, you got to do some of that heavy lifting.
Yeah. All right, Dan, we're up on our time. I want to make sure I'm respectful of it. Any final parting thoughts or anything you want to summarize before we sign off here?
No, this was great. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate the time. I'm glad you reached out, and I'm always curious to hear if there's other people that kind of see things the same way I do, or they think I'm crazy. Or maybe I'm sure there's a combination of both of them out there. So yeah, I'm super interested to see what the feedback is.
Yeah, me as well. All right, Dan, appreciate you.
Yeah.